Ang Midnight Train Yard Promise on the Switch Key. The train yard is a city that never finished deciding whether to sleep. By day it is logistics and horns, men in neon vests waving authority. By night it becomes a map of iron with its own pulse, tracks humming with the gossip of departures. I slid through the service gate with my phone face down in my left pocket, the pocket I use for things that are supposed to make it home, and followed the chalk marks that only workers and thieves respect. Floodlights cast long verdicts across the gravel. Somewhere far off, a whistle bent the dark into confession. Back home, Daniel had said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" in the voice that means please stay now. Our couch can turn into a tribunal if we sit on opposite ends too long. I left before opening arguments turned personal. On the pedestrian bridge, my screen lit with a message from Jay. Jonah in my contacts, Jay in the way I label hazards to make them smaller. Control Shack. Just talk. He didn't add punctuation. He trusts me to bring my own. By day, I fix other people's paragraphs for a freight logistics firm that thinks adjectives are indulgent. By night, I try not to turn my own into weapons. Daniel and I keep a code when we remember. T means come here, you awake. Means I'm scared. Tomorrow means not yet, but don't walk far. Jonah re-entered my orbit 2 months ago when my firm sent me to profile unsung heroes of freight. He walked me through switches and signals with the patience of a man who'd taught machines to confess. He wore an old jacket, unzipped one too many, and a laugh that sounded like a glass agreeing to be set down gently. He didn't ask for anything. That was how I started bringing him everything. The control shack crouched on the edge of parallel tracks like a sermon waiting for an audience. Inside it smelled of coffee grounds and metal. Panels glowed in greens and ambers, levers steady as morals. Jonah leaned against the console, sleeves shoved up, collar unpunished, his hair damp from weather that hadn't asked permission. He held a switch key, a heavy brass thing, and let it spin once on its ring before he stilled it with his thumb. "You came," he said, "because grown men never tire of pretending arrival is a plot twist." "I came to return something," I said. "My key, your restraint." "Your name," I said. "It's been on my mouth too long for its own health." He set the switch key on the desk beside a clipboard, placed a pencil on top with a precision that looked ceremonial. "3 words," he said. "Why are you here?" "3 words is cruel," I said. "That's why they work." He angled the desk lamp until the clipboard became a stage. No speeches in front of the board, it remembers. I wrote proud at breakfast. Beneath it, smaller like a fuse I might or might not light, touch before arguing. He read the graphite as if it were glowing. He didn't touch me. His hand hovered a breath from my lapel, the distance a match keeps during training, and dropped back to the desk like the signals had voted no. "Does he know?" Jonah asked. He didn't need to weaponize the pronoun. "He knows the apartment is quiet," I said. Jonah flicked a lever, and somewhere outside a turnout realigned with a hollow clank. "Steel never argues," he said. "It just waits until you move it, then tells you whether you were right." "Is that a blessing or a threat?" I asked. "It's procedure," he said, and stepped into my weather. Heat arrived before hands do when men are trying to be better than their appetites. "Tell me no," he said, the most indecent sentence he owns. I didn't. I met him in the inch that rewrites evenings. His mouth tasted like mint and the ghost of bitter coffee. When his hand found the back of my neck, his grip remembered humane limits. My body answered like a courtroom that wants the witness anyway. He made the sound men make when a small country surrenders and calls it diplomacy. I made the one I've learned not to hate when it belongs to him. We didn't rush. Yards punish speed with physics. His mouth found the hinge of my jaw. Mine found the line behind his ear where regret loses vocabulary. His palm slipped under my shirt and rested flat for a second. "Do you swear?" Then moved with attention rather than appetite. He guided my hand down with the steadiness of a man who respects torque. I closed my fingers and he exhaled into my mouth a truth nobody had paid to hear. He reached for me and I let him. We stayed quiet because signals prefer prose. Outside, a locomotive idled, patient as a witness. "We already cheated," he said when breath returned to being currency. "We cheated the first night we started telling each other the truth before we told it at home." "I know," I said, and a red light outside blinked its steady judgment. He folded the slip and slid it into my left pocket with ceremonial slowness. His thumb traced my wrist once, then let go. He stepped back the moral inch that passes inspection. "I booked a bunk at the Yard Hotel," he said, not triumphant. "Weather report, not prophecy. Refundable. We could stand at the window and not touch for 60 seconds just to prove we remember ceremony. We could keep the do not disturb honest." "I'm tired of being clever," I said. "Clever's a timetable," he said. "Looks good until a storm asks if you meant it. Accurate is steel." He reached into a drawer and produced a novelty magnet shaped like a miniature signal head, ridiculous and perfect, and pressed it into my palm. "For your fridge," he said. "Cold helps letters behave." We stood at the window and watched freight creep past, each car confessing its weight. Jonah pointed out the subtle dip in the rails where a joint was older than either of us. "Every imperfection is mapped," he said. "The system doesn't pretend not to know." He turned back to me. "Text me a weather report in the morning. Tell me if the kettle beat the reasons." "It usually does," I said, "when we let it." Outside, gravel pressed my shoes into honesty. The crosswalk gave me time, I took it. The apartment offered its square of kitchen light and the fridge's patient hum. Daniel sat on the floor with his back against the door, sleeves pushed to his elbows, one ankle crossed over the other, the posture manuals use when they draw people who are about to fix things. He didn't ask where I'd been. He tilted his head toward the place beside him. I sat. "Do you want to be asked?" he said, voice steady, not performing mercy, offering it. "Please," I said, "because prompts are scaffolding for better selves." "Are you lonely?" "Some nights," I said. "Not here. Not when you ask first. Not when the kettle outruns the reasons." I placed his hand on my forearm the way he does when he needs to confirm I'm not inventing weather. His thumb traced once, decided to believe me. "I feel useful," he said. "I want to be wanted before I'm useful." "Tonight's procedure," I said. "Touch first, argue second, report later." The kettle clicked like a stamp in a country that still believes in mail. He poured water over mint. We called it dinner because names are cheaper than regret. I pinned the folded slip beneath the signal magnet so Proud at Breakfast faced the room. Daniel read the graphite and his mouth did the smaller, braver thing. He took the dry erase marker from the cup and wrote beneath the magnet, "Tomorrow, keep the torque." He didn't grin. He nodded like a man assembling a morning from honest screws. We made a rule that isn't noble. When prosecution tries to wear a bathrobe, one of us says train yard and the other puts the kettle on while the first puts his hands where history can find them. 5 words when 5 are enough. Stop at the shoulder, not the ditch. Try to want what we promised, and when we don't, write 3 words on small paper and tell the room where we'll fail differently tomorrow. Days do what days do when you're trying to be an amateur human with professional consistency. The slip in my pocket learned the shape of my left hand. Paper learns its carriers. On the late tram, I drafted messages to no one that began I didn't ask because I thought that counted as kindness and ended "May your breakfast go right." I didn't send them. The not sending felt like a skill borrowed from rails. Hold, then release. A week later, afternoon tried to be a test. A client wanted adjectives for cargo that didn't deserve them. The sky rehearsed rain it never performed. I walked past the yard and bought nothing. I left a bottle of water on the bench with a note, "For whoever is waiting for a sister." A brakeman gave me the nod bridges use when they've held and will hold again. On my way home, I slipped a blank waybill into my pocket and wrote "Turn toward your name" across the clean side. I didn't light anything. Jonah and I adjusted our grammar. Fewer messages. No hotel bunks with curtains that excuse everything. If we failed quieter. If we stopped without applause. Still, we orbited. He sent a photo of a switch lamp lit against dawn, my initials hidden in the ballast chalk. I replied with steam curling over 2 mugs and Daniel's unshowy script beneath the magnet, torque. We flirted by timetables. We confessed by maintenance. One storm-proud night, a locomotive stalled on the main and Jonah texted, "Need hands, bring nothing you can't lose." I was 6 blocks away and too willing. We coaxed circuits, wrenched bolts, made steel pretend it forgave us. When the engine caught, he leaned into me and let the relief catch fire. He kissed me against the hood, my spine meeting cold steel, his hand at my waist. Somewhere a light turned green and no one asked who it was for. We didn't rush. We mapped mercy with our mouths and rehearsal with our hands. His palm slipped under my shirt and paused. "Do you swear?" Then moved only as far as the better version of me allowed. I bracketed him with a grip he could leave without proving anything. He reached for me and I let him. We stayed quiet because the engine had just trusted us and the room deserved the courtesy. "We're bad at quitting," he said into my jaw. "We're good at failing differently," I said into his collar. He laughed once, small and stubborn. "Text me a weather report in the morning," he said. "Tell me if the kettle beat the reasons." "It usually does," I said, "when we let it." Daniel met me at home with the posture of a question he had decided not to sharpen. He smelled like basil and laundry that forgives. "Hungry?" he asked, and it wasn't a trap. We ate toast like it had been newly invented. After, he wrote under the magnet, "Ask before leaving." I wrote, "Hold me first." We signed because sometimes paperwork keeps 2 men from becoming hatchets. On a Tuesday that felt unromantic enough to be credible, I told him the inventory. Jonah's name, the rooms, the fences I bragged about by leaning on them. He didn't perform sainthood or punishment. He said, "Stay while you learn the thing you say you want to learn. But don't make me a depot where you transfer your guilt and call it travel." Breakfast became a place with rules. No phones at the table. No rehearsed cruelty before coffee. No pretending tomorrow is a siding where tonight can rust. I turned the waybill over and added 3 new words: "Choose the hard." Daniel watched me write and didn't ask for proof. We shrank the orbit. Fewer yard doors. No levers unless the jam was real. Jonah sent a photo of the shack dark, one tiny LED insisting still here. I hearted it and didn't go. He hearted the heart and let it stand. The night the city celebrated a centennial, fireworks echoed off iron like poorly scheduled trains. I stood on the pedestrian bridge with a borrowed tie and the guilt of someone who wants 2 timetables to agree. Jonah didn't look up. The part of him that belongs to steel refused. That's how I knew he was taking this seriously. After, he sent one photo, the switch key on its hook, light steady green. I sent back the magnet on our fridge and the folded slip beneath it. We left it there. Sometimes Daniel asks whether Jonah made me feel seen. I tell him yes, and that being seen isn't the same as being kept. He nods like a map allowing a road to close without deleting it. Some nights he places my hand on his chest and says weather, and I answer with steam and minutes and my mouth finding his shoulder before it finds an argument. We fail and fail differently and fail in ways that don't require anyone to stand under signals pretending to know which track will save them. The room does not demand a verdict. The morning remembers its job. I still carry the folded slip in my left pocket. It warms against my thigh like a small, unlicensed gravity, heavier than paper has any right to be. Proud at breakfast. Touch before arguing. Choose the hard. None of it is noble. All of it is procedural, like switches. You align them, you double-check the points, and you hope the train that follows is carrying something worth its weight.